Good afternoon, Bobcats. Welcome to SSHA Academic Advising's virtual open house week. We are excited for you all to be able to connect with some of our faculty and students from the Literature, Languages, and Cultures Department. My name is Amandeep Singh, and I am the Student Engagement Coordinator for SSHA Academic Advising, as well as an academic advisor for the Anthropology, Management and Business Economics and Economics students on our campus. I will be your moderator for today's panel. Before we begin, just a few Zoom guidelines, and then I will have the panelists introduce themselves. Please ensure that you all keep your microphones and videos off throughout the panel. If you think of any questions that you would like to ask to our panelists, please use the chat function at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Brokaw to start off introductions.
Hi, thank you, Amandeep. Yeah, welcome. At the start of this, it's just people from the English department, but in a moment, Dr. Richie will be joining us to talk a little bit more about the Spanish program. But we'll just have a conversation about the program and how to be successful in it, and the kinds of careers that you can pursue with an English major or minor, and research opportunities and things like that. So I'm Professor Brokaw, and I've been the chair of Literature, Languages, and Cultures for the last 3 years. And this year I'm the English program coordinator. And I'm joined by two wonderful superstar students who are both seniors.
Hi, my name is Isaac Gallegos. I am a fourth year English major at UC Merced, and yes, I'm honored to be here on this panel.
Hi, I'm Mahaya. I'm also a fourth year English major and a global art studies minor.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. One of the first questions that I have for you all is really if you can just tell us a little bit more about yourself, why you chose the major or the route that you're pursuing, and why did you choose UC Merced? And we can start off with our student panelists.
Oh, well, I can go first. So I chose UC Merced because, like, as a first generation low income student, it was the most accessible financially, and I really liked the demographics because there was like a lot of people of color, and it was one of the most diverse campuses. And as an English major, I chose English because I've always, in high school, you're kind of gravitate either between the STEMs or the arts, and I've always been kind of an arts kid, and English literature is just it's just so complex, and there's a plethora of different niches that you can explore. So I was like, hey, this is the funnest major, so let's do it, and I'm having a blast.
Yeah, sort of similar to why I chose being an English major, but I chose UC Merced because I just knew that there was going to be a lot of opportunities here. I really like the way that they branded themselves as the heart of California and pioneers of education, being the newest UC. I'm really proud to represent that and be a part of that, and also just how many opportunities are at the school because of it being so new, and the community here is much more close-knit and connected because how small of a population we have. And I just love basically every aspect of this school. And then being the English major, it's even a better part of that. The English department is also very close-knit and supportive. And within my major, I've been in classes with kids that I've been in classes with since freshman year. I've known them for the past 4 years now. And that helps me be more motivated to do my own work, and then also gives me so much more inspiration for research and what I want to be interested in. And I've always loved writing, and I've always loved reading, and I feel it connects to more social themes more than a lot of people realize, and being able to analyze and critique literature helps me analyze and critique what's happening around me in the world, and break down structures in society. So I think it's very valuable.
And I'll just add, I mean, I loved hearing that from Isaac and Mahaya, and it is true. There's 100 English majors, there's 13 teaching faculty in English. So, you do the math. We get to know our students really well. A lot of our classes are capped at 24. And we know our students' names, we know about them, we know what they care about, what they think about. And it's really the kind of education that you might get at a small liberal arts college, but it's at a UC. So we have these great research opportunities as well. So I feel really lucky to be part of this program. And so thrilled that we attract such amazing students.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. So next question, can you all talk a little bit more about research within the department and how can students go about getting involved in research?
Well, from my point of view, there's like different research avenues in like the English major, because like obviously you're always attuned to like writing research papers in classes, but then also like there's like internships and fellowships that the university has and like helps like foster. Like for me personally and with hey, like we worked in UROC with the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Center with Dr. Brokaw over the summer, and we and I like it's just there's so many different avenues of research. For us, we did like Shakespearean research, but then there's also I'm doing honors thesis research with Mesoamerican creation narratives and like Roman Catholicism. So there's like there's so much different like opportunities and mediums where you can like participate in research as an English major.
Yeah, I mean, going off that, I was also part of UROC. So UROC H is like the humanities aspect of the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Center. And then it's underneath Surrey, which is like Summer Undergraduate Research Institute. So it's like not just English majors, but if you are in social sciences and humanities, then UROC H is like the perfect opportunity, because besides we do Shakespeare literature, Shakespeare research, but there's people who I know who did like literature with music and like lots of research on many different topics that like it doesn't have to be like very, I feel like a big thing with research is people are afraid of it because they think it's very rigid and very like scientific based, but humanities research can be much more creative and much more like personally expressive as well too. And I feel like that's a big aspect that UROC introduced me to that I was not aware of at all. So it made research much more accessible also.
And I'll just add, I mean, it was really wonderful that I got to work with Isaac and Mahea this summer through the UROC program, and the kinds of research that they were doing is more interesting than the kind of research that I got to do as a graduate student, right? And that's another sort of UC Merced thing that we're, I mean, we do have graduate students, but not quite as many as we might if we were at Berkeley. Or somewhere like that, and our undergrads are so amazing, and so you know we the best of them, we often give them opportunities to do real research, not just sort of theoretical research projects, but the work that Mahea and Isaac did will go into archives that forever document a couple really pioneering Shakespeare companies. So it's another advantage to a small program within a small university. And the same would be true for Spanish, which is actually an even smaller program. But there's, you know, pretty much everything we're saying about English is true for the Spanish major as well.
And I just wanted to talk about that too with critical race and ethnic studies. I'm not part of that department, but I'm an editor for the Critical Race and Ethnic Studies undergraduate journal. And I feel like that's also a big opportunity that I feel like social sciences people could contribute to, because then you get to have your research papers published in an undergraduate literary journal as an undergraduate student. So that's a huge opportunity for Critical Race and Ethnic Studies undergraduate journal, and also the Vernal Pool undergraduate journal, which I think is really popular with English majors on campus.
Thank you for sharing that. Just going off that a little bit more, a lot of our students, sometimes it's hard to navigate, right? Finding where can they find opportunities like this, or how do you go about starting the process for it? Can you all just explain a little bit, how did you go about getting involved in your research opportunities that you did so far in the university?
Well, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of very kind and thoughtful professors who will email me and be like, hey, you're a great student. Here, have this research opportunity. Apply if you want to. And so, like, forming connections with my professors has been extremely important in like having opportunities on campus because, like, if I don't engage with them as humans, I feel like that's a big part of college. Like it's not just teacher and student, you're both people and you have to acknowledge each other as individuals. And so having that sort of understanding allows us to connect better and then like see the potential in one another. So just like connecting with your professors and going to office hours. Everyone always says that, go to office hours, but like actually go to office hours because then you can talk to your professor and then you have more of that understanding and they'll give you opportunities and they'll think of you when there's things that come their way.
Yeah, just like I agree like 100% with what Mahia said. Like getting to know your professors like on a human level really helps because then they reach out to you if there's like opportunities or if they want to like collaborate with you because you're not just a student, you're like a collaborator. And also like maybe being in tune to like the SHA department, like stopping into the SHA advising center every once in a while because they like post a lot of information about like internships or research programs or even like funding programs that like I've applied to and that have like benefited me.
I'll just again, I love this, like they say the smart things and I just say yes, what they said. But that's absolutely true, making those connections with your professors because we get these opportunities that you know, come across our radar and we think of the students who we know the best, right? And who are standouts in our classes and who we know have particular passions. And that's great advice from Isaac too about you know, using the resources that SHA advising. I'll also say both the English and Spanish programs have Instagram accounts on which we post a lot of things. So things get posted on Instagram and we post them. So, and the websites for both the English and Spanish program have events and all sorts of resources that come up as well. So I think, you know, in terms of making the most of the university, doing things like that, and also just sort of paying attention, looking, now that we're back on campus, looking at the flyers that are posted around and reading them. You know, people are always trying to reach you and tell you about these opportunities. And usually if you're just sort of paying attention, they will find you.
Yeah, going off that, check your email because in the English department and the Global Art Studies department, they send me newsletters like every week with like lists of opportunities and applications and internships and funding. And if you don't look at your email, then you won't be able to see those opportunities. So check your email.
Awesome. Yeah. And I definitely emphasize that SHA Academic Advising also has a newsletter that goes out biweekly. And as Isaac had mentioned, we provide opportunities right through those newsletters and we share things that are given to us from other departments and majors for students to be able to pursue different opportunities on campus. So really great points with that. Moving on to our next question. For our student panelists, what are you hoping to pursue in terms of a career with your major?
Well, my ideal goal that I've always sort of had is to be a high school English teacher, but now that I'm in college, I have elevated that to becoming a professor. That is my like probably biggest goal, just becoming a professor of literature, probably with emphasis on gender and Shakespeare and sort of more of my niche interests. But yeah, going to grad school, getting my PhD, and then becoming a professor at hopefully, I've always thought it would be nice if I could work at UC Merced. That would be really amazing, like coming back to where I started, but just a university that I feel like shares the values that I have. And then also on more of a creative aspect, I really want to write my own books and have some sort of creative outlet and some sort of like creative platform regarding my global arts minor with film and photography and how I can sort of work with mixed media to like create a sort of, I want to be the publisher or creator of my own sort of literary magazine also.
I feel like my intentions are like similar to Mahia's. Like, through UROC, we were like really like forwarded to this like idea of graduate school and like obtaining a doctorate. So I feel like my most ambitious self would like to also pursue education, like, and like teaching higher education at universities, because it's just the way it's like impacted me. It'd be very like um gratifying to know that I'm also impacting like similar individuals like myself, you know, because in college you can really connect with English and research, and like connecting those like intersections with your own like upbringings, and you can make like foreign like artists or writers like seem very like familiar to someone. And so that's something I'd like to pursue, probably like as Mahia said, in teaching literature. More of an emphasis on like magic realism and Mesoamerican like literatures, because that's always something that's been like very dear to me. And just like giving back to my community in some way, yeah, some shape or form. And yes, those are my goals.
And Dr. Brokaw, if you can talk a little bit about why you pursued your path and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, well, I had kind of a roundabout path. Like I spent my youth pretty sure that I was going to become an architect when I grew up. And then I pursued theater and art in college in addition to English. And then kind of realized that English was going to be a field in which I could continue doing theater and art in some ways. I was at one point planning to go into children's publishing when I was in college, and then ended up deciding to go to graduate school, which I began as pursuing medieval literature, but then kind of ended up doing Shakespeare and reconnecting with my love of theater. And then I got incredibly lucky in getting this job at UC Merced out of my PhD. So that's the sort of abbreviated version. But yeah, I'm very grateful that I continue to be able to not only teach and research, but also create theater with my students, which is amazing. I can talk a little bit about other career tracks though in English, because I do recommend going to the website, so english.ucmerced.edu, and particularly the page Why English, because we have a lot of resources there about the kind of skills that an English major gives people. And basically, I think what a lot of people don't quite realize is that there's a lot of professions that really value the English degree, right? They know that they're getting someone who can read and think and analyze, and who can write. And these are skills that can't easily be taught, right? If you think about something like computer science, that technology that a computer science major learns right now is going to be totally different in 10 years. But the skills an English major gets, these are sort of permanent skills, right? Being able to really think and synthesize complex ideas is always going to be important. And I think if we think about the kinds of challenges facing us, pandemics and climate change and things like that, it takes someone who can really analyze and communicate about those ideas and sort of bring people together. And a lot of the skills that the English major teaches are really important to have at the table for those. So, you know, both employers and graduate schools, and I'm not talking just English graduate schools, I'm also talking law schools, business schools, even medical schools, they know that an English major is able to you know, persuasively and effectively communicate, to be empathetic and value other perspectives, to think about the world as globally connected, to communicate orally effectively as well, to read texts closely and really understand them, and to interpret and evaluate culture as well. So there's a lot of articles we have on the website about how tech companies like Google say that English is one of the most valuable majors to have. In fact, one of my best friends is an English major, got hired by Google, right? Because they know that she has, they can teach her the tech, right? But she has the big picture skills to be able to really think in creative ways, right? Economists talking about the world needing better storytellers, Forbes magazine talking about English major being the tech hot ticket, and articles in the Atlantic about humanities training entrepreneurs, right? One of our most successful UC Merced English alums, she went to work for Twitter and Instagram. This is Siobhan Charles. And now she has an amazing company of her own called, what is it? Magic in the Melatonin, where she is bringing together Black creatives from all over the world. And she was named one of the top under 40 entrepreneurs by Forbes and Ebony magazine, right? She's really crushing it. And she's an English major, right? And she's crushing it in tech entrepreneurship. Actually, more English majors get accepted into medical school than biology majors, right? Because English majors understand how to listen to a patient and put their story together and think about the narrative of everything they're saying about their symptoms rather than just jumping to conclusions. So there's a lot of careers that you can pursue, often with a graduate degree, sometimes not, in addition to the more obvious roads of sort of English teacher and librarian and writer and things like that.
Awesome, thank you for sharing that. So follow-up question, you talked a little bit about graduate school. What can our current undergraduate students do today to help them better prepare for graduate school if they're considering that route?
So in the English program, I think UROC-H is a great opportunity, and/or we have an honors program where students spend their whole senior year, which Isaac is doing, writing a long 75 to 100 page senior thesis. But all of our students actually write a senior thesis of some kind, which is the right length for a graduate school sample. And I think, building those connections again, right, that one of the important factors for graduate school is those letters of recommendation from faculty. So I think that those are, and succeeding in your classes, frankly, is important as well. I think if you're thinking about taking your English or Spanish major and applying to law school or medical school or business school, you might look at a minor or a double major, or just getting some sort of prerequisite classes that will help you get into those other programs. But that double major or even that minor in English or Spanish is going to serve you really well in all of those careers. Hi, Christian.
Hi, before we move forward with more questions, I would like to introduce another panelist that just joined us. So Dr. Richie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Here we go. Yes, hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me here. Yes, my name is Dr Richie. I'm a professor in the Spanish program and in the Literature, Languages and Cultures department. I've been here since the very beginning, 2004. I was hired in 2003 and I started in 2004. So I've been here for over 17 years now. And I'm very happy to be in representation of the Spanish program here, a very dynamic program that we have a BA since 2013. And while we incorporated other faculty since I came on board, we're aiming to keep hiring more faculty to diversify what we already have. So I don't know if you want to talk about the program or just about myself? But if just about myself, I think I already said enough. If you want me to talk about the program, I can go a little bit.
No, definitely. Let's have you talk about the program a little bit more.
Okay, so in the program, people can choose to from different courses. It could be classes in Spanish Peninsular literature from the Iberian Peninsula. Also courses on Latin American literature, as well as US Latino, Latina, or Latinx literature, as well as linguistics, right? So so far those are the main courses that we offer. We also offer classes in Spanish for the profession, like for example, people who want to go into nursing or want to get perhaps later on a medical degree and stuff like that. We're able to offer those courses as well. I think one of the key aspects of the Spanish program is that to a certain extent, while faculty do concentrate on geographical areas, we tend to overlap on something that is nowadays very important, which is the movement of people, you know, borders. We're talking about also people who migrate to other places. So we just don't take literature as something that belongs to a particular nation, a particular country, a particular region. So we concentrate more on we follow the movements of people across boundaries. And for example, in my case, I just don't teach the literature of Spain, you know, from medieval to the 21st century, but I incorporate new voices of migrants today living in Spain. Like, for example, in my case, the people of North Africa, who actually happen to be the largest community of migrants in Spain today. In the case of Professor Lopez Calvo, for example, he concentrates on Asian cultures in Latin America. That's his main focus, Asian cultures in Latin America. While we know that Asian migrants have been pretty much all over the globe, there is this niche, this new way of looking at Asian migrations, particularly to Latin America. So that's his part. We have a person, we have Arturo, I forget his last name now. Arturo Arias, there you go. Arturo Arias is a very, very, very famous, not only professor, academic, but he's also a novelist, very famous novelist from Guatemala. We have the honor to have him here. So in his classes, you can actually, you know, study the literatures of Mexico, Central America, and also the literature of the migrants of Central America and Mexico in the United States. But the good thing is that he can also offer his own perspective about how to write fiction, which is something excellent. We also have Professor Manuel Martin Rodriguez, who teaches Chicanx or Chicana studies. And he's an excellent resource that we have in our department. He came when I came on board in 2004. He's a founding faculty too. He's very well known in his field. He has been in other places too before he came here. So that's great that we have him. His classes are super popular, you know. So if you ever consider taking a US Latino, Latinx class, just do it with him. He's great. And we also have Dalia Magaña. She's a linguist, and she's our sort of star of the program, if you want to call it that way. She deals with linguistics, but she concentrates on an aspect of linguistics that deals with also migrants in the United States, and particularly in California. And she deals with things that for example, what kind of language doctors need to use when they approach a patient who is Mexican or who is from Central America. So she plays with that sort of bilingualism in not only in a school setting, but also in other settings, like, as I said, in medical settings and stuff like that. We also have our former chair, Virginia Danlifante, who also happens to, she's very versatile in her approach. She actually teaches culture, she teaches language, and she also teaches linguistics. So that's pretty much all the people we have. I'm talking about ladder track faculty, but we also have lecturers as well, right? Who are our equal. The only difference is that we are ladder track and they are lecturers. So that's pretty much the only difference. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have any specific question that I might answer, Amanda.
Yeah, for sure. We're playing a little bit of catch up with this particular major. But so we talked a little bit about careers with English. Can you talk a little bit about career paths with the Spanish major?
Definitely. I believe that I haven't heard what Katie said, but I believe that pretty much all the examples that Katie gave apply to international relations. That's one. Lawyer, to be a lawyer, that's another one. Of course, to be teachers in high school, in primary school, second language teachers, that's another one. And also things that had to do with diplomacy, for example. If you want to become in the future an ambassador, or if you want to be, if you want to work overseas in a governmental agency, you can do that as well. So those are pretty much the ones that come to my mind right now. But I bet there are more that I'm forgetting. Katie, help me out here.
That sounds right. And education and business and yeah. And health, right? I mean, Dalia's, Professor Mangana's work really highlights that, but health is somewhere where bilingual people and those skills, speaking of bilingualism, is really, really important.
Definitely, thank you, Katie. Yes.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. So next question, for our professors specifically, can you talk a little bit about some of the courses that you teach or have taught? And then for our students, what are some of your favorite courses that you've taken pertaining to your major?
Sure. So I teach the first part of a 4-part survey sequence in the English major. So I teach the medieval and Renaissance literature class. So we look at literature from Beowulf, which was written around 800, up to Milton's Paradise Lost from the late 17th century. So we cover this huge stretch of time. I actually really love teaching that class because most people don't think that they're going to like medieval literature, and they discover how weird and wacky and interesting it is. I also teach several Shakespeare classes, and increasingly I teach theater classes. So this spring I'm teaching a class on theater and ecology that I'm really excited about. So one of my big passions of the last few years has been founding and running the Shakespeare in Yosemite project, which many English majors are involved with, acting and behind the scenes. So that class will be an outgrowth of that, thinking about all kinds of theater and the way that it can both be more environmentally friendly and address ecological issues. I also teach a lower division lecture on literature of childhood that's really a blast as well.
Yeah, I just want to add that also Katie has been great at putting up performances that are bilingual too. So that's another thing that I want to emphasize, that we are constantly in communication with between English and Spanish. It's like we don't think of like, okay, this is a major in Spanish and we are away from everybody else. No, we're always, in dialogue with our English partners in the department. So that's a great thing to do. In my case, well, as I told you, I teach from all the way from medieval Spanish literature up to the 21st century, and I'm very happy that lately I've been teaching courses that deal with migration issues, particularly people who come from the North African Muslim world to the Iberian Peninsula. That's something that I'm teaching currently. And I also had put together this Spark seminar, which is, as you know, for students who actually are in their freshman year. But it's a class that it has a sort of a catchy title. Do Africans speak Spanish? People probably don't know that well, Africa is a huge continent, and that they have their own local languages, as well as some countries who have official languages like English and French. But very few people know that there are at least two countries that have official or co-official languages, Spanish. So that's what I'm teaching currently. I'm very happy. I think the students are having fun with that too. So in my classes, particularly if there are 21st century courses, I tend to mix the actual novels or poetry or theater plays with a film. And I think that's something that the students truly appreciate, because they're able to see how a certain culture is portrayed in a novel, in a poem, or in a play, but also they're able to see how that looks like in a movie or in a TV series. I mean, I don't show TV series, but in movies. So that's something that I find very attractive in my classes, and my students, I think they also welcome that kind of approach too.
I would say from my experience, the English department has had like some of the funnest English classes, because they're so extremely like diverse. I believe like some of my favorite like ones have been in the survey that Dr. Brokaw was talking about. I think English 101 and English 104, like sort of the front and the beginning of that survey were my favorite, because they're just like, medieval literature is very interesting, because it's like a relic from a different time, and then we're still in the postmodern, and it's very cool seeing like all that postmodern literature where people break from the modern to the postmodern. And also one of my other favorite classes has been absurdism and surrealism. It's with Professor Brooks. Just like because it like all these classes just show you how like diverse English literature can be, and how like transformative it can be, because it like there's like lots of like character journeys, and like, and even there's like sometimes like even a growth within like the reader, because you recognize yourself, and it's if I could be paid to read all day, that'd be a dream.
Yeah, I agree with Isaac. Those were definitely my favorite too. out of that, English 101, 102, 103, 104, English 104, and English 101 were my favorite classes ever, especially English 104, just because it introduced me to some of my favorite books to this day, actually. And they're like more modern books that talk about a lot of more modern issues that I find really important. But then also, like within the English department, I've taken Intro to Shakespeare and Advanced Shakespeare, and that has really led me down a path of like, I've always been interested in theater and Shakespeare and like, and how we can like talk about literature and theater together. And that has been, those classes have been like incredibly eye-opening. But then I've also had a huge interest in biology, and I've taken nature writing, and I've taken animals and literature, which have taught me a lot about how we can talk about literature and like biology together. And then also literature and sexuality and LGBTQ fiction have been incredible classes that I've taken that have just like, I'm really impassioned by queer studies and LGBTQ studies. And that's like one of my biggest like career goals and paths that I want to take in my life. And those classes have been incredibly impactful too. So there's just like within English, it's not just medieval like literature and like classic literature. It's like a lot of other sort of pockets of interest that you can pick from.
And also, if I can add something real quick, like I also really like how like there's this strong like Shakespearean aspect to UC Merced's like English department, but it's very like holistic. It's very holistic because it's very it's not like antiquated, and it's not like rigid and like classic theater. It's like taking those classes really helped transform like my perspective on some like Eurocentric classical texts that I really love nowadays, like Dante Alighieri or Shakespeare.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So moving forward a little bit, we've talked about some of the courses that you all have taught or that are some of your favorites. What are some good academic behaviors to be successful in these types of courses? Especially now that we're coming back from a virtual world, right? A lot of our second year students are adapting to being back in person. What are some good behaviors for them to adapt to?
One of the biggest things that I do that helps me like keep track of everything, especially now that we've been back on campus, I feel like I've have that unique experience I feel like all fourth years have, where it's like I was here and it was like solid, and I got my first year and a half of education, and then I was pushed into online, and now I have to like figure out how to come back to being in person and existing how I was back freshman year. So it's like I make a lot of lists. I feel like making lists and like keeping track of all of your assignments sort of chronologically helps a lot. Just writing everything down. Like I have a planner and I have a notebook and I have scraps of paper, like not just writing it down once, like writing it down everywhere you can just to remind yourself. And then just trying to be as engaged as you can in class and paying attention and focusing. I like to find people in my classes that like maybe I'm not even friends with, but people who I like will catch my eye and I'm like, oh, they're paying attention too. And I'll go sit by them and I'll try to create connections within my classes with other people who I know are going to motivate me. And then also, yeah, getting to know my classmates and getting to know my professors and going to office hours. And recently, a big change that I've noticed has been Discord has been really helpful. Like because of the online times, a lot of students have been creating like online forums where they come together and there's homework help and people ask questions about class. And I feel like that's sort of continued on now that we're back in person, and there's still Discord groups. So just like having ways to connect with others in your classes really helps, at least me, like stay on track and stay focused and like realize that I have support and people who are like going to help me.
I think too, now that we're back in person, of course, attending class is the number one thing. But when you're there, if you can, put all your screens away, this is for English and Spanish, have just the text and your notebook and a pen and really engage, because screens are incredibly distracting. We know that, right? It's really tempting to just start looking at other things if you have that screen in front of you. So trying to be screen free as much as you can, both when you're in class and also when you're studying, right? When you're taking notes, to try to do it by hand, or if you do it on your laptop, to turn the internet off, right? And to, you know, I mean, I wrote my whole first book, my dissertation of my first book, by hand. I'm a big fan of that. There's research to say that that sort of connection is more creative than typing. So I think, you know, this technology is great in many ways, but for English and Spanish, for the study of literature, sometimes getting away from that technology can be also important. And then, as Mahea said, we do whatever Mahea says, really, but creating those connections, right? That it's really, you know, find someone in your class and say, oh, let's read through this together, right? If it's a, you know, if you can read through a scene together and take different parts, or really look at a poem together or a passage together, and, you know, meet up at Coffee Bandits or in the Lantern, and talk through these texts together. The thing about English and Spanish literature is there isn't a right answer. It isn't like, oh, I'm cheating because my classmate told me that the answer is 42, right? It's being able to talk about these texts and engage with them. And maybe you say, like, I really hate this poem, and your friend says, well, actually, I thought it meant this, and here's a different way to think about it. So really, I think creating those connections outside of class can help as well.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. Try to make, I wouldn't say friends, but I mean, try to get as many numbers and meet with your classmates as much as you can, because sometimes you learn more from your classmates than from the instructor itself. So I wanted to say something that I think I always say this, but I want to reinforce it. You people are at the University of California. This is the best public system, educational system in the world. And you are privileged because you have direct contact with us. This is not happening in Berkeley or UCLA. You have you're being privileged by having us accessible pretty much all the time. So take advantage of that. You know, that's something that I always encourage my students to do. And I think pretty much everything else, they already said it. In my case, I would add, it's very important for me, for students to read. Read. That's what I keep telling them. Read. And then when it comes to writing and doing your presentation, that's going to be easier. But reading is super important.
Yeah, I think everyone stated like all those beneficial tips and things, like writing. For me, it's like writing everything down, because I have a pretty terrible memory. I forget things. I forget things like quickly if I don't like write them down. And so it just helps me stay on track writing lists. And yeah, like talking, I remember in freshman year, like when I didn't know anyone, I always had like a personal goal to like talk to at least one person, or at least make one friend in a new class, because then I at least have like someone so I can like feel stable, instead of like being like every day in the class like, oh, I don't know who to talk to, and I don't know how to like cope with socializing as well as learning, because now we have to balance too.
Awesome, thank you. So we're getting closer to closing time. So just as a final question to you all, for our current students, any final parting words of advice for our current undergraduate students, and then for our professors here today, what advice would you give yourself when you were an undergraduate, in terms of like, are there specific opportunities or resources that you wish that you took advantage of when you were a student?
I guess I just want to say that like UC Merced is possibly like one of the most special places ever in my life, and I absolutely adore it here. And I feel like I've gotten to that place where I love it here just because I've immersed myself in the community here so much. So like any advice that I have to give is like connect not just with campus, but also go into town, take the bus, go downtown, go to Merced Arts Center, go to the Merced Playhouse. There's so many like creative outlets in town that are accessible to students that I feel like not enough people take advantage of, but like being able to connect with campus community and also local community has like made this place so much more special, because people come here and they're like, UC Merced, it's in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, so what? There's still so much to do here. And there's still so many places to go. And also like, I guess out of a English perspective, but go to the lake, go to Yosemite. It's like a beautiful natural place too. And it's a place where you can like get to know yourself. And because it's so in the middle of nowhere, it's a very unique place with very unique people. And that makes it incredibly special. And how you already mentioned, Professor Richie, but like, it's like you have very personal relationships with your professors, and you have many opportunities here that you don't have at other schools. And it's a UC, so like as an undergraduate student, there's just everything about Merced is amazing, and I will preach that till the end.
I'd agree. I agree with Mahia. Merced is amazing. And another thing I'd like to say is like balance is achievable. It doesn't always seem like it, but like if you play your cards right, and if you like talk, if you're just like aware of it, you can have like a work and school and social balance. It's hard, and I haven't always been able to juggle the balls correctly without dropping them. But like, if you dedicate yourself like aptly to each thing accordingly, like when you're doing your assignments, or when you're like socializing, or when you're like working on your mental health, if you like do them all like if you do them actively, like you'll be like fine and use humor set, and you'll have like a blast. And like at the end, like at the end of like the 4 years, you'll like be this completely different person to like who you were freshman year. And like I don't recognize freshman Isaac. There's like been so much, and like I feel like everyone goes through that change. And if you're not going through that change, there's something wrong.
Freshman Isaac was pretty awesome. I remember freshman Isaac. But that's absolutely right about the growth. I think, you know, and instead of exactly answering the question of what I would tell my younger self, I do want to just highlight Mahia's point about getting to know the community. And I think with English and Spanish, like that is part of your education, right? To get out of that that bubble, that campus bubble, and make those connections with arts organizations, potentially with schools, that the skills that you're gaining in your English and Spanish classes, you can use in the community. And also just makes your time more enjoyable, you know, to go to exhibitions at the Arts Center downtown, many of which are directly related to what we're talking about in our classes, to go to plays, right? Playhouse Merced is doing the play in the spring, a new musical about Latinx immigrants that's directly related to what we talk about in both of our programs, that it really enrich, you know, it's not just something that is for fun and a study break, but it actually, in our programs, will enrich your educational experience as well.
Well, I don't know, what would I tell myself if I go back to in history to when I was an undergrad student? So I would definitely agree with Katie, you know, to do stuff outside the classroom and try to get involved in the community, as also Mahia has said before. So that would be my suggestion too.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for your time. We truly appreciate you all joining us today. For more information on both of these majors for English and Spanish, they do have department websites that you can visit for more information. You're also more than welcome to join SHA Academic Advising for walk-in hours or appointments if you have specific questions relating to majors. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.